Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you to We'll Bring the Popcorn, the ultimate film and TV podcast.
Welcome in, everyone. Today we are joined by Matthew I Schmidt, the director of Mr. Sandman. Matthew, thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your film?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, guys. Mr. Sandman was basically an idea that came to me. It was actually during COVID, and I knew I still wanted to make a film, but I had to do something that was somewhat contained and with minimal cast. And I kind of went back to like the first lesson of storytelling, which was make it primal. Because if you make it primal, then everybody can connect to it. So I said, well, fear of the dark is an extremely primal thing that we can all relate to, and more specifically, childhood fear of the dark is, it crosses genders, cultures, you name it. It's just so deeply ingrained in the human DNA. You know, what you can't see, your mind puts things into. So the whole idea was, okay, I want to make a film where this child is trying to get to bed safely because that's where they feel the most safe. And it's like, what's in the dark? They're always afraid of the dark. But I didn't want it to be just their imagination. I wanted to put a legitimate threat in there. And I kind of spitballed a couple ideas in my head, like, all right, what type of monster or creature? And I'm like, I actually went on, did a little research, and I was like, oh, I'm like Mr. Sandman. I'm like, that's kind of like gift wrap for me. So, and there have been other Mr. Sandman movies made before, but it didn't seem to focus on this particular fear as it more just focused on the monster. So I more wanted to focus on the fear, and that's really where the basic idea for Mr. Sandman came from.
Are there other childhood fears of yours or your kids that you think could make into a good film that you might want to look into after this? Or was this kind of just that situational because of COVID and what you had that you decided to go with that type of story?
I think with me, it's like I tried to squeeze as much as I could remember being afraid of as a kid into this. There are like little shots, subtle things like pulling your feet under the covers when they're dangling out and stuff like that, and making those sprints from one room to another as you're turning lights on and off. The only thing I can't say I forgot to put it in, I just couldn't figure out a way to put it in without slowing the story down, is sleepwalking, which I think could probably make a great horror film on its own. Because I know as a kid I used to sleepwalk, so
Yep, as did I.
and I always ended up like near the front door of my house, so it scared me every time. So I think maybe sleepwalking is probably the only other thing I could reach into if I were to build off of this idea for another movie. But we'll see. I have so many ideas in my head. It's like, it's what mood am I in at the time? You know, what am I really passionate about that I want to bring to life?
Yeah, one of the things that is really prominent throughout this film is the use of sound and the heavy emphasis placed on sound to kind of help build tension throughout the film. What are some of your biggest influences as far as the use of sound in film, and how did that really influence the way you used it in this film?
I really focused on, and I have no trouble admitting, my inspirations. You know, some people, critics might call some of it copycatting. Everybody's copied from everybody, so I didn't even worry about that. I just more used, I was just like, all right, this inspired me. So one of my favorite horror films, and probably what I still consider to this day the most underrated horror film, Exorcist 3, use no music whatsoever, use nothing but sound effects in place of music. So even some of the stuff I used that sounded like music, with the exception of like, Dance Macabre is clearly in there, and a couple of music cues that are obvious. Swan Lake is in there. But without those obvious exceptions, even the things that sound like music were actually sound effects. So what I was trying to focus on was, at night it's quiet, and that's part of that kind of goes with the fear of the dark, because not only are you seeing things, you're hearing things. So I wanted to use sound effects in place of music to create that to enhance that organic fear that we all have of the quiet, the dark. So I bought like a sound effects package, and I also went on YouTube and got a lot of public domain sound effects that people put out there. And I just tried to blend them the best I can to make it as effective as possible. But organic was really what I was going for.
Yeah, because sound can really, because we've seen in like A Quiet Place and things like that, that it really enhances if you're focusing in on what you don't hear, and then you get the creaks and you get the small sound effects and stuff that kicks in. It can really bring that intensity up quite a bit in there.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more. Quiet Place is a great example. I've never, I don't even remember a movie where I focused on sound as much as I did Quiet Place. You're like, oh,
Hmm.
every little thing you have to like think about, and it was actually, the first one really. I thought it was a really really smart concept, really high concept film.
So, is there anything that was memorable or unusual that happened during filming because of doing it during COVID with your kids and everything else? Like, how was that? Was there anything that stuck out to you after you were done filming?
Not so much. Like COVID didn't bring the unusual too much. It actually because we filmed in the house, it made it a nice small setting. Which I mean, trust me, that brought its own challenges because although it seems on during the movie like a relatively empty house, it's a very full house. Dog, cat, two kids, wife. So it's a very full house, and to fake that brought its own challenges. But um, as far as the memorable situation goes, and I know I've brought this up before, but it sticks out in my head was the night when the actress who played mom got the contact stuck in her eyeball.
Ooh.
That was about as memorable as it gets because I went into full panic mode. She was putting on the contacts, and I was trying to help her, and we were having a terrible time getting them in. And then all of a sudden, one of them, she had the one in perfectly. It was just the one side, and then it was giving us trouble. And then it just slipped and went like behind her eyeball, like up top,
Ooh.
and I went. I've never worn contacts, so I didn't know the situation, and I think we both panicked at the same time. And I'm like, all these thoughts came rushing to my head. I'm like, well, movie over, lawsuit coming, emergency room, here we go. So it's like a million thoughts came flooding to my head at once. And then all of a sudden, like miraculously, she blinks and it falls perfectly into place. And she was so upset at the time, but I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? She's like, yes, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm just upset. It was just traumatizing to her. I'm like, can you hold on till we get the shot? So we got the shot. No emergency room trip. No lawsuits came of it. And obviously we completed the film. But that, people always like, some people wonder, it's like, is it scary to film a horror film? And I'm like, no, it's so many stop and start and lighting and you're joking around in between. That was a moment of pure dread for me. So that was scary as could be. But the memorable are the challenges of it, but I'm very happy with the final result. So it's something it's something I'm just really proud of, and the reception has been overwhelmingly positive. So I mean, those are the memories that are going to stick with me.
I love that you mentioned that. You talk about challenges. Obviously, that's a very big challenge when it comes to filming this specific movie. But as an independent filmmaker, what kind of challenges do you find being presented to yourself when you're trying to build these worlds that you're wanting to build? Like, budget is a pretty easy answer. So I'll say maybe aside from budget necessarily, but what are some of the challenges that you find when trying to make a film like this or building a world that you're trying to build?
I mean, without a question, time. Time is the biggest challenge because you get these grandiose ideas in your head, and you want to like present like the most you want to make it look like you're presenting a package of a film that's beyond, even beyond your means. You want to make it look as high quality as possible, and I admire the effort that a lot of independent filmmakers do, but it's like, and I'm a victim myself. Sometimes we just fall short, because of our constraints, and it's tough, it's challenging. But for me, it's definitely time because not only do I work a full-time job, to take care of the bills, but it's like my wife works full time. Both kids are not only full-time students, but extremely active in sports after school. I joke around and I tell people I'm like sometimes busier on my days off than my days on, just because I'm drop off this one here, pick up this one here. Like time without a doubt is, I sometimes I don't have weekends where I can even just sit down and watch a movie, let alone shoot a film. And when you're talking about, this was my first cinematic style. Previously I'd only done found footage, and that is infinitely harder because with found footage you can kind of point the camera in one direction and let it run for 5 minutes and have 5 minutes of usable footage. With cinematic, there are I estimated roughly like 12 shots per minute. Now each of those shots requires setup, lighting, sound, positioning. Oh, you got a shadow over here, wait, we got to fix that. So I time and scheduling, and then not only my schedule, but I got to schedule the actors, and they have their own lives and stuff. They're full-time employees somewhere. So scheduling, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is even a bigger challenge than even financial for me.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I got two girls of my own, so between all their activities, the day job, doing the podcast and everything else, it's like, okay, where do I find time to do everything? And then I couldn't even imagine as you trying to get a full film done in that extra time. Of what is extra time really is can be a huge challenge.
Exactly.
So I wanted to know what really got you into horror, what got you into wanting to be a director to make films.
I grew up very much a cinephile. I had so many people, whether it was my older brother or my uncle or my father, like everybody I was surrounded, my best friends, all my influences were movie fans. So my whole language growing up was movies. And the thing that always attracted me to horror was because I was so scared of it as a kid, and because I was force fed a lot of it. One of my earliest memories is, and I can even tell you when, was the 1981 rebroadcasting of the original Halloween. My older brother, my older cousin thought it'd be hilarious that while my parents were out, they would sit me down and make me watch every frame. So that was traumatizing. But at the same time, it created a love, because it's like I kind of compare it to a roller coaster. You're scared. That first drop is scary. Everything's scary, but you can't help but get that exhilaration at the same time. So, and as I got older, the fear started to go away, and the love of the cinematography, the music, just the visuals just took over. And I was just like, as technology caught up with us, because when I was younger, all I had were like VHS camcorders, and those just weren't cutting it. And found footage wasn't a thing yet when I was growing up, so I didn't even think of trying something like that. I tried to make VHS look cinematic, and it just wasn't happening. So as technology caught up, unfortunately, in my, not old, but not in my 20s either. But I was like, wow, technology now can make a very amateur person look professional if you use the tools right. So I mean, you have Final Cut Pro, which is software that major studios use. Your iPhone has all these like cinematic modes and cinematic apps that can make things look, professional grade. So I was like, wow. So it's like it, it's I hesitate. Some of my friends use the word hobby. I don't like that word. I would call it passion project. And I'm also one about not. I try to limit as many regrets as I can. So I at least want to do stuff to know I did it, and that way I say, okay, at least I tried, and wherever it takes me, it takes me, and who knows, if it, God willing, if it takes me somewhere bigger, then great, and if it doesn't, I won't have that regret because at least I know I put myself out there. But, to simplify it, the love of cinema, the love of horror, the love of, horror and comedy always impressed me because it's really, really hard to do either one well. Very hard. So, and yet we all want to laugh and we all want to be scared, but it's hard because we're so desensitized to so much.
That is true. I love hearing people talk about passion projects too, because that's something we're both very big on. Obviously, that's why we kind of did this podcast that we're doing as well. But I want to kind of bring it back to the talk of budgeting. We kind of left it out before, but let's have a little fun with that. If you could get an unlimited budget and make any type of movie you want to make, what type of movie would you want to make? And who would you like to actually cast in that film? Like, is there a dream person you would love, have like an ideal lead for a film project you would like to put together?
Well, I'm going to apologize because I tend to over-explain, so I'm going to answer that in two different parts. But my dream person to work with is an easy one. It's Gary Oldman. I have never seen someone on screen be such a chameleon. And if you look at his body of work, it's not just that he takes different roles. It's that every role he takes, he makes you believe it, no matter how vastly different it was from the last character. And, and people are like, well, point out some examples. I'm like, okay, well, if you don't believe me at how good an actor he is, you're talking about this very classically trained theater style actor who should be only doing stuff like Howard's End or, like Remains of the Day or stuff like that. But yet, I urge everyone who's listening or watching or both to please go check out True Romance and tell me that is a classic British trained actor in a theater actor playing that part, because he was as convincing as could be to be a street level pimp, and you never would have thought someone like Gary Oldman, and if you've seen interviews with him, like the most gentleman of gentlemen could play a part like that. And that impressed the hell out of me. And I was like, wow. And then everything I've seen of his since, you're just blown away. But aside from that, dream project, that's also an easy answer for me, because before I started filmmaking, I started screenwriting. But all my screenplays would require the full Hollywood machine. So my screenplay, coincidentally titled Horror, is all about a serial killer who is going out, taking out the final girls of all the famous franchises. And it is up to this movie-loving homicide detective to stop him. So the opening scene alone, Jamie Lee Curtis is taken out by a copycat Michael Myers. So this guy goes around copycatting the famous movie slashers, and he's taken out all the final girls. It's a horror comedy, and if I had the unlimited budget, that would be my dream passion project, because it's done, it's completed, the screenplay is completely written, copyrighted, and everything.
Yeah, it's amazing to see, because I agree with Gary. Like, he is so incredible in everything. He seemed like, I was still so surprised when you see him like in Fifth Element being that quirky, over the top, crazy type of villain, because he's hamming it up so much in there, and you can see him in, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and just everything he does, you can just see the commitment that he has to her. So that would be an absolute dream. Casting in a dream like person, just to be able to, I would love to sit down and talk movies with him. He definitely seems like someone who you would just love to have a conversation with after all of his experience and everything else. You see all the behind the scenes from like Harry Potter and more, where he's talking to Daniel Radcliffe and like, yeah, I've been in like 100 movies. Like, what? But he just seems so genuine and down to earth, but he commits so hard to just everything he does. Yeah, that would be a perfect casting for anything. Like, it doesn't really matter what you have. You could throw Gary into it.
It's true. Very true.
So, Matthew, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you sitting down, talking about horror, talking about movies, and talking about your movie, Mr. Sandman. Mr. Sandman is out on Tubi and YouTube. You'll find links to it in our description. But thank you again, Matthew, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. It's been great.
To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.